I want to talk about the play-to-earn gaming model and really talk about the expectations from both the parties involved, because I feel like we're out there in exploratory mode where we're trying to figure out what is the right answer for ultimately what's going to be a really amazing, profitable, and fun system into the future. However, we're at the very beginning stages, and I think one of the serious conversations we need to have is related to those expectations, because again, without understanding what it is we're trying to accomplish, then it might be a little bit hard coming out with a result out the other side. We may be just throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks, and I really do think that's kind of where we're at now. I see a lot of projects trying to develop things, not entirely understanding what it is they're trying to accomplish. Well, I think most of them do. They want to make money, but they're not really sure what possible expectations should be set on the other side, and vice versa. So as a gamer, they're not really sure what the devs are trying to get out of the entire situation, although that should be pretty straightforward. So again, this video is really talking about the expectations and why we've probably got it all wrong, and that we need to analyze it a little bit deeper so that we can reverse engineer what it is we're actually trying to get and find out what might be the optimal gaming model, right? There's gonna be one that's gonna work better than others. And we've seen a few things with dual token economies like Axie Infinity and StepN out there that have a dual token economy that a lot of people talk about being a Ponzi scheme and the fact that it would not work into the future. So I want to again go back to brass tacks, start talking about the expectations we set so that we can think about the other side of what it means to actually have a decent playing gaming model that is a play to earn for everyone to enjoy. I thought it was important to jump into the studio so I could go over some slides, provide you some visual aids, as well as manage to keep myself on track, because I'm trying to talk about a lot of things here, and I'm gonna try and do it as best I can to get through it fast, but still need to have these concepts understood before we move on to the next one. So we're gonna progress through these slides, starting at some basic concepts and working our way towards a play to earn model that probably works, or give us a better idea what will likely work. So I really wanted to address the two people, or the two general parties involved in the entire process of a project, a play to earn model, right? Why the project exists, okay? We have these two people, user and the developer, right? The developer is probably, you could encompass everybody involved in there, the investors, everything. Let's consider this the project. I probably chose the wrong term here, but that's the project. And here's the user. The user is expecting one thing: good times. Now, the good times, a smile, can be in many different ways. Now, you can get them from making money. You can also get them from having a good time. You know, making friends, like all of these things that will make you smile is ultimately why you would pay that money or you would play that game, right? Is for that sort of thing. The developer, and we'll just use that for round terms this time, and we'll talk about them, is looking for money. Pretty straightforward, I think, right? I don't need to explain that too much more, but that equates to, over this way, time, right? So we're talking about time is money for them. Now, there are cases that you could make an argument, yes, they would do it for free, but in most of these situations in crypto, I would imagine we could assume that they're doing it for money, right? That's probably the goal, putting in hours, years worth of work, hundreds of people in some cases, probably to make some money. So now that we've got the base concept of the two people, let's talk about the expectations a little bit further, what we have and what we could expect from play to earn games. All right, here we go, second slide. And I know these are getting better by the second, but this one I wanna focus on this side first. And in this case, I'm gonna talk about the expectations that people have in different scenarios, right? Different types of people, what they might possibly, and we're theorizing, but we could safely assume that these are probably characteristics that we could look for. So here's your standard channel. This is the gaming model we have now, okay? This is our user, little smiley face, and this is the little transaction cycle that is an expectation in the traditional gaming model. I give money to the game, I get a smiley face back, right? I have a good time. I'm not expecting money, I'm just expecting a good time. That's it. So we're gonna use the smiley face in this case to continue that they're happy, they're good time. Ultimately, it does result in a smiley face overall, right? Now, this can be in the form of competition, all sorts of games. It's just, that's all they're looking to play. Now, if you're like me and you play competitively or play like first-person shooters and you're not the winner, then you're not smiling, but you do come back. So that's really the expectation in the traditional gaming model. Behind me are three more play to earn versions. And we're gonna talk about three variations. And the reason I have the three is because I wanna just express three, I think, common variations that I would imagine most people holding. There can be more than this, but let's just talk about some of the basics ones. This one is probably the biggest one I wanna talk about. It's probably the problem within the play to earn community and what the expectation is from the user side. It's for money. okay? They want money. And so you can see the little transaction cycle here is a $1 sign in. They want to get at least that money they put in plus some, okay? So that would be for profit, right? This is where we are. This is the goal of what they're trying to get to, is they want to make money. So whatever money they put in, they have to exceed that. As we know, profit in minus out, right? $100 minus 50, it gives us $50. We have a smiley face, okay? If this is negative 50, this is a frown, because we put in 100, if this was inversed, right? We got out 50 and we put in 100, we'd be kind of sad. We'd be like, why am I doing this? And you would probably go around telling people it's dumb, and you would say not to do it, and it doesn't make any sense to do it because you weren't happy, you just did it for money. But that's the main expectation. So I want us to really sink that one in, because I think that's the big one we're gonna talk about a little bit more. But here are two other variations, and they're very similar in style, these two, what there are that they sort of feel. But I want to express a little bit of a nuance between the two, because I think it's an important distinction. Now, this person here is doing a similar play to earn. They're also expecting play to earn, but they want to put their money in. They expect to have fun first, with potential to make a little bit of money. And I chose very specifically the cent sign as a symbol of, no, not necessarily my full amount back, but maybe I get a little bit, that would be reasonable, I guess, to play a game. Sure, if I got a little bit of money, I was having fun anyway. You know what I mean? It's a win-win, right? So that is the fun first, maybe income, and income's a very strong word, so I wouldn't say income, but maybe side money, side cash, right? So that would be a smiley face, okay? And I gotta look over my screen where I'm pointing, that's a smiley face, okay? The second one, very similar to that one. And I do want to note this, right? So here's the key component, right? They pay money for a good time plus the NFT. Now, let me mention, these all involve NFTs, obviously. All the other play to earn models involve NFTs. But anytime I bring it up specifically, it's because I want to bring attention to it, because of the assumption that all of these involve NFTs is a given. This involves NFTs because that's why they're doing it, for the technology. They appreciate the NFT technology, they like it, and that's why they're interested in it. They want to have fun with the game, but they're really interested in the concept that they are keeping the in-game assets. They are the owner. They like that, they go play and work for that in-game video game to get that sword at the end of to kill the final boss and get that magical sword. They own it. Now, it might not be worth a lot of money, but they have it as proof that they did it, they won, and they like the fact that they can leave the game, and maybe if they make a second game, they can take that sword to the second game, I don't know what, I was gonna think of a fun game like Diablo 2, but that's not the game I was thinking of, because that's a Blizzard game. But that still results in a smile. So you can see how the variations, these two guys are very similar. One's kind of doing it with like, cool, it's just a game, and maybe I'll make some money. And the other one's like, hey, I get the NFT. And realistically, yes, they do maybe get some money too, but this is really mainly their thing. This is the other one that we're gonna talk about here in a little bit. This is the main crux, I think, where lots of people get involved with. And this is probably the approach that's gonna make everything a little more difficult. So let's talk about one more thing before we move on to kind of like what people usually see as a model, right? We're gonna look at like from a top down. Well, it's a horrible drawing from a top down. So it's not a top down, but anyway, you'll see. Let's go to the next slide. All right, here's the next slide. And in this slide, we're gonna be talking about project ecosystem, okay? So there's a number of reasons I wanna talk about this, but we need to set something straight about cash flow. Money coming in, money going out. Within that, let's start here. Let's actually start with the project ecosystem. But we are talking about money coming in, money going out. I want to make sure everyone understands that this ecosystem, this entire circle, the tokens, the staking, the NFTs, all of that can live in a vacuum. It doesn't need any money. Now, if someone wants to dedicate their time and build a project, a bunch of developers and get together and nothing in it for them, they can do that. Technically, Bitcoin had no profit until we all assigned value to it. So Mr. Shiitake Nakamoto deciding he wants to develop it, and all the parties involved did it for free at first, right? So you can do that. Then comes in money later, okay? So this is very important to understand, because a lot of people will be like, well, I can play with all these functions. I can play with these features to make my play to earn model work. Yes and no. You can tweak it and adjust the pricing mechanism ultimately of your token and the value of your project, but you can't change the money coming in and the money coming out. And what I want to express is the difference between this, because people will say that, well, these are like tokens, right? No, I'm talking real world value. And this could be your country's fiat currency. If you're like me in America, it'd be US dollars converted into crypto somehow, and from any other crypto project into this project, right? So it wasn't in this token, it wasn't in this ecosystem before before, and now it is. So it could have been any variation of stuff we hold real world value. As long as I can exchange it eventually to something that I could buy in the real world, that's what I'm constituting as money. Okay, it's come in. We worked out our job, we got it, we decided to put it in a DEX, we did that, we got it exchanged to USDC, and then we got it into this token, token X, okay? It has to leave the same amount. $3 signs, $3 signs. They have to leave at the same amount. Now, you would say, well, there can be, someone can steal it. No, that's just an arrow out of the ecosystem. Someone else's bank account is just one of those dollar signs. Instead of being over here, it's here. Now, really, I should have drawn this with the arrows going into the places they go. Project devs, users, this can be some of these users can then they could put in some dollar sign, and some of those users will take out $2 signs, right? Because the value's gone up, or maybe they won out of the project and they won some money and they used it on a decentralized exchange, but they would have basically taken the money out of the ecosystem. The price value of the token would have dropped, and that would have been visually represented with that. We look at coin market cap. The token up and down is a representation of how much is leaving in excess of how much came in. But it has to come in and it has to kind of leave at the same. You can't just make money up. And when you have inflation, all inflation does of these kind of tokens is when in crypto, it doesn't change the value of the money. It just changes technically the circulating supply, right? It doesn't change the market cap. Like the money's still there. It just means that the value will always equilibrium on the price action compared to it. So it's really, and I know I'm hammering this point in and I don't want to hit it too much. We're going to move on, but really have to understand that. $3 signs in, if you take away one thing, $3 signs in, $3 signs out. That's the main gist from this slide. So remember that throughout for the next slide. Let's move on. All right, next slide. Now, in this one, we're going to talk about our traditional play-to-play model. Okay, this is just a video game. This is any of the video games we all grew up with through the 90s, whatever. However old you've been playing video games. Hey, maybe you just started now, whatever. But it is just, you're playing it for fun. And it goes back to that first column I talked about where the expectation from the user. And you can see I have very similar, let me stay on this side. I have very similar users with their expectations. I give you money and I get a smile back. And we have our 3 users here, representing a larger percentage of people, right? So let's imagine that each one of these represents 1 million people, right? And they're each giving you $50 for the game. So that significantly changes what this means, but it's algebraically, it still makes sense. That dollar sign comes in from that bulk of users. They all expect happiness in return. Now, if they don't get happiness, they just are bummed out. They still don't get their money back, but they're just like, I didn't get a smile. And then they go talk shit. That's all that really happens. But essentially, that's what they're expecting. Here we go, Blizzard. Really, ultimately, the game would be above it. And we could say, WoW. Let's talk about WoW, where you can actually get games where you go as a team and you develop, you go win that sword. You go ahead and get all that stuff. It never leaves the game. The game keeps all the NFTs, all the assets. There's no NFTs in this diagram, right? So what we can see is I want you to note that there's $3 signs up there coming from those 3 pools of users. There's $3 signs down here, down the bottom. I gotta step in a little bit more. Those $3 signs are equivalent to what has come in, has gone out. Going with our previous slide, we talk about it has to come in the same amount that goes out. And you can see that there's a section of like different bodies or pools that we could talk about where that goes out. I know we can say this in different ways and those arrows could be, this could technically be over here and whatever. I just wanted to address some of the major bodies, right? The owners and the shareholders expect money. This is a for-profit company. That's the whole expectation. They're going to make money off of this, right? They're not doing it for fun, shits and giggles. It's for money. So someone's expecting some money in return. Investors, shareholders, all those people. Development, marketing, the team, the developers, the actual people coding, the programmers who go home every night but don't own a share of the company, the ones who made it, the marketing team, to get people to play, that has to get some money. And then realistically, for a project like this, if it's being honest with itself, it needs to continue making projects. Now you could take this and you could assign it back over here or here. You could split it between these 2 if you have no intention of making another project and this is just gonna die. You take your legacy and you move on. But most projects, any entity, any company that wants to continue moving on needs to assign some money, some of its capital to R&D, the future, etc. Right? So that needs to be, and I didn't even notice this. I forgot I put this down here. $3 signs because it's more in the future. So that means more dollar signs. So there's incentive to do it. But let's not hammer this too much. This is pretty straightforward. Emphasis, $3 signs in, $3 signs out. That's the money that came in. If there was 100 million that came in, 100 million could leave in any form of that version you want, any other line items you want. Now let's look at our first example of a play to earn model that we commonly see in the crypto space. Okay, so this is probably one of the more common play to earn models for making money. So this is really focusing on, and I remember told you to put some emphasis on that first column where the person's expectation is making money. This is what a lot of users are expecting from the game. This is the version that publicized all of crypto play to earn gaming. Stuff like Axie Infinity, where places in the world where people were making enough money as an income to justify it as their day job. That was the expectation, as I'm making it for money. It's not for play fun first. Maybe I'm having fun while I do it. It's a job I like, but it's still a job. I'm making money, right? Very set expectation of making money. I'm gonna stay on this side because this is the better side, and I'm gonna walk you through this. So we have our user, our 3 set users, again, same body, 3 million people, whatever, something like that. The expectation, I give you money, I want at least my $sign back, plus more, right? Another $sign and more, if it's possible, for sure. So if I put in $100, I'm expecting at least 101 back. That's why I'm doing this. If this is ultimately my expectation, this is for money, then obviously that only makes sense. That's for profit. Like, I can't be expecting less than what I put in. So if I buy an NFT for $300, then I want $300 out, at least. I actually want $350. If I'm not gonna get $350, then I'm not gonna do it. That's probably what that person's saying. I just want you to get to the psychology. So these are the 3 people, and they're all thinking the same thing. Here, and then here. I forget how far. Wow, this is way over here on my green screen. All right, here's our game, just like Blizzard. It's in here in the middle, okay? And I want to note that we have $3 came in, okay? This is very important because those are the signs to the 3 that come in. This yellow one, now I've kind of drawn it wrong here, and I realized that after the fact, but this is the aspect of projects that would talk about trying to get other assets or make money through the game of being played. So this would be, perhaps you build a marketplace and you take a percentage of transactions, okay? The reason that this is kind of wrong is that these transactions between these people, technically, if you think about it, it's in the ecosystem already. Going back to that original slide, it's not new money in, okay? So it's just money in the ecosystem, and so you're kind of just taking it from here, right? You're taking a percentage from here. So really, you're not taking new money in. What you're doing is you're really slowing down money going out. That's all you're doing, right? Because it's in the ecosystem from external location. So it's kind of different. However, we can imagine that this person hasn't bought in yet, and they bought an NFT from this person to get in, okay? So it can both be just cycling money inside the ecosystem and not making new money, or it could be, hey, I'm a new user, I'll buy one on the secondary market from you. So let's assume that that's where this money is coming from. And then let's also put an assumption that it's very generous. So you're taking 50 cents on every dollar, which is why I put the cent sign, right? I put the cent signs here and over here that will allow it to represent, it's a percentage. If you were getting $1 for every dollar that was changing, then you would take the full value and then it would be gone. You couldn't do that. But the reason I wanted to do that is because like, even if we were generous with the math and we said 50 cents, which would be 2 of them together, then we've got ourselves $1. But let's assume all these line items, like all the things you could do to make money off of it. You have your own DEX and you take a slippage, or you take some profits off of the trading fees. And then you have your own marketplace where you also take transaction fees, all those sort of things. It still would result in, theoretically, with this assumption, because again, you'd have to take a percentage, roughly the $4 signs. And even if we went to the $5 signs, like it was more than I'm anticipating, you'll see that it's not really enough because they're expecting $6 signs, they're expecting 6, and they're expecting 6. And even if they're not expecting 6, even if they're expecting $1 sign and a cent sign, right? So 50 cents and 50 cents and $1.50 over here, you have to pay this person so they get some chunk of money, right? And then you still have to give out those 3 other dollars that came in. And then, so then where does the extra money come from? Do we give this person less than a cent? Do we give them less than this symbol? So all these symbols become, you know what I mean? So the 4 coming in, and I've done the math over here for how many dollar signs I actually have shown, is technically 4 comes in and 7 wants to leave. So really their expectation, and we could talk about reality, but their expectation is, say I want to double my money. And that would be that I want all my money out. Now that doesn't mean it's not a reasonable expectation, but however, they'll be disappointed because it doesn't work, because they only brought 3 in and no more money came in for any other reason, right? This is the main thing I want to draw attention to, is no other reason came in money. They came in with $1 expecting 2 out. Nobody came in putting $1 in without expecting money in. Therefore, we run out. The money doesn't make sense. This is essentially, when you look at this is essentially, and if we go back to our previous slide, which I might save these and be able to slide back, this is profit sharing. Play to earn is like profit sharing. And that's really the main thing I want you to take away from it. It's just a company like Blizzard saying, hey, instead of us taking all of it, we'll give you back some of it. That's it. But we do need to understand is that the main theme was that they were getting the bulk of the money, or the premise was a profit company. Most of the money was coming in. Now they can decide, hey, we'll give you 99% of the profit. It's such good profit and it was such low overhead that we only need 1%. But if you view users brought in 100%, all that they're gonna get out is 99%. And that means that someone gets left out. Someone loses out on their percent. And out of 100 people, that's that one person who doesn't get theirs. And they're gonna trash talk it. Now, 99 can get it, but then the devs got 1%. Do you really think they're gonna do it for that low? So the mechanisms within inside of this are where people really start to focus. They start to focus on tweaking those because they start to say, well, yeah, it's profit sharing and I could get less as a dev and that's okay. I only need 2% to make it make sense and we'll give most of it back to them. And they start tweaking dials like how slow money goes out or how much of a percentage they take off of their yellow lines. And again, ultimately, it's really about how much comes in and how much goes out. All that extra work means these people need more money. So if they need more money to keep maintaining all this sort of and playing with these dials, then they're probably wanting a little bit more money, which means more money has to go to them and they have to slow it down a little bit more. The problem with this entire model is that, as you can see, realistically, you end up, in most cases, taking from a person, you get the $3 signs in, and distributing it back to that person. And I know what we're thinking, the negative word. I'm not gonna even say it, starts with a P. It's very similar to that, because if you slow down the rate at which money goes out, and you still give out some money, but it comes back from the people who gave you the money, then, right? It's kind of in that route. And again, as I said, yes, you could kind of look at it as like profit sharing. They just get back the money for it. But if the sole purpose for that person is not anything other than getting their money plus some, it just doesn't work. The math doesn't add up. I gotta look. The math doesn't add up. They can't, there has to be some money with somebody who doesn't get anything. They get a different exchange of service, okay? So this is really important, is that the person, someone in this model needs to get a different exchange of service. They give in money and they're not getting money back. They just get happiness, sadness, maybe they're into BDSM, I don't know, whatever. Like, it just has to be something other than money, because the devs built something in exchange for their time for money. They also need to do something similar. So let's look at our next slide to look at a more realistic model now that we've hammered that one to death. Okay. This is our final slide, I believe, and it is our most realistic play to earn model. Now, there's many variations within this, and the previous one, obviously, guys, read between the lines on this. I'm not saying this is the only version. I just wanted to illustrate it for us to understand this. Now, you'll probably note, very similar. Everything going on here is very similar, but I have this big box that has NFT sales. Yes. The example was all about NFT sales as well. Again, I mentioned at the beginning, when I bring it up, it's because I want to put emphasis on it, is that really we need to consider the NFT sales, realistically, as a crowdfunding source. That's what this project is being developed. That's where the large amount of money is. It really is these dollar signs. I got to figure out where I'm pointing. Let me go over here. Why am I standing so close? It really is these dollar signs. Okay, guys? So these NFTs really are those dollar signs. They're the crowdfunding. So it's just this money coming in ahead of time, okay? So before the development has made their project, before these guys have done anything, they're just crowdsourced. Buy our NFTs and you can use those NFTs in the game in the future. Now, realistically, it needs to be because our users are expecting fun. Now, this is the real main thing that's changed throughout the entire thing, is that their expectation is, I'm gonna have a good time. Most of them, just, I'm gonna have a good time. And some of them, and I should have drawn this slightly differently, some of them will get money, okay? Now they may all expect, they may be more like that second column where they expect cent signs, right? They expect a little bit of money, maybe, as if I do good. Yeah, then that just distributes this dollar sign and splits it up amongst all of them. So it's only gonna be the people who play the game the most or the best that are rewarded. And your playing version, I think I mentioned this, it could be loots, it could be a luck mechanism. It doesn't have to just be the hardest players so that the people who play casually are just, not having fun, but they still need to be playing for the main reason. So the exchange is for money for stuff, for fun as a different service instead of just money. So let's count the number of dollar signs going in and out. And again, we could always cut this dollar sign down and distribute it amongst everybody, but it's still less, it equates to a dollar sign. So 1, 2, and 3, we have our 3 users. They bring in their 3 whites, that's through their NFT sales. They get a little bit of extra from maybe some new users are coming in through different methods, or maybe this exchange, right? So now we're making money because they're exchanging some of these dollars, because now they'd actually have to pay to transfer, right? So there's gonna be some sort of like, oh, I'm gonna transfer you an NFT. There's gonna be a transfer fee. Now that's actually money coming in. This really makes more sense. Now this money actually comes into the ecosystem because they'll have to provide the tokens that they probably had to buy in your marketplace externally, right? And then now you've actually made your money. Again, the math still goes the same. If you're taking 50 cents of every dollar, that's what it would look like, but it could be a lot less. You know, it's percentages we're talking about, of transfer fees. Then we have 4 going out, right? 4 over here going out, and we have 4 coming in. And the math makes sense. So our devs only get, realistically, the 1, and they get to use those other 2 to do stuff like build their next project, or maybe that's part of marketing or whatever, but they still get the lion's share to perpetuate the business, to perpetuate developing it, to making the game, making a second version of the game, making a new game, and continuing on the prospect of the business in exchange for another service that you like in the future. Hopefully you like what they did, you'll like what they do again, and you'll give them more money next project, okay? But still, the math, the revenue, 4 in, 4 out. That makes sense because nothing's destroyed and nothing new is created, right? It's just straight across. And this is honestly a far more realistic model. And again, visually represented here, this is child's play, so don't take this for what it is, and I'm sure you could all poke holes in this, but this is the perfect opportunity where you could leave a suggestion on what you think I might have missed from this drawing, or whether or not you think I'm right on this. Do you see anything wrong, loopholes? I'm trying to cover this as fast as I can, so I'm sure there's a few things I'm glazing past that I should probably stick on, and that might be for another video. But let's leave those comments. Let me know now. Maybe I'm just completely forgetting something, and maybe there's a number of features in there. And I'm sure there is. There's definitely a lot more to this, honestly, than what I'm talking about right here and right now. But this is generally what I see as a whole that people misinterpret, either when they're making a project or when people come up to a project, their expectations. And this is why I really wanted to draw attention to the expectations and go through a few of the examples as far as I see them making sense into the future, okay? All right, let's obviously address the fact that yes, there's some flaws and some omissions inside of this argument. There has to be. I had to pare it down. Economics is a very large topic, a lot of moving parts, and safe to say I am acquiescing to that. I'll give you guys that. But this is the perfect opportunity where you can leave the comments and let me know what you think are the most important features that I might have missed that really have a bigger weight. One that comes to mind, thinking about, the omission of the entire group of people like speculators outside of an ecosystem with no intention of playing the game, but bring money in and bring money out. They're really probably a bigger moving part than was addressed here. That said, I think the real gist of what I'm trying to get to is, again, the expectation. And I said it a number of times, I wanted to hammer it in one more time for you. The expectation of what you're going to get out of it, if too far in one direction, is unrealistic. And to make it something that we don't get hurt over and understand a little bit better, let's just understand each person's perspective. There are a number of parties involved in these, and they all probably have expectations of getting what they want. And we have to remember, what is it they want? That can vary, but they want to get what they want. If they don't get that, they're not going to do it. Doesn't make any sense. So this is a very big function of the entire project and really something I want to hammer home in this video. On top of that, I wouldn't be doing justice to the entire concept if I didn't talk about the fact that you could use a play to earn game, not necessarily as a loss leader, but as some sort of a tactic to entice people to be in an ecosystem. Now, I've seen a number of projects out there that have been building ecosystems, DEXs, marketplaces, development platforms, launch pads, all for building games and for other platforms and developers to come on board. Those could use a game that doesn't make them any money, but brings people in to where they pay people as a marketing tool. Now, again, another one of those omissions and flaws from the entire concept of what I'm looking at, but something I wanted to bring up and address here because I think that's a really big one and probably going to be a feature of a lot of these that we'll see going forward. It's really what I think some of these less thought out projects may end up using them for is, oh, maybe this doesn't work as a model of generating revenue. However, we can use that on top of all the other infrastructure we built around this ecosystem to maintain an influx of users, get them enticed, and have them utilize our other products that do generate more income. Generating income, again, is at the end of the day, probably the main thing here, guys. The developers, the people behind the project, they want money. They're not doing it for the kindness of their heart. I really can't stress that anymore. The people playing the games, they want two things. They either want money or they want happiness. Really, if you think about it, it comes down to one thing, happiness, right? You get money for happiness. So it's all about money and happiness. What's gonna lead to the most for everybody? I don't think there's a perfect win-win situation out there, but I do think that there's gonna be probably some more concrete models that we'll start to see coming forward. As long as people understand and anticipate the expectations that are being put forward by both the developer and the person purchasing the game. So, if you got any value out of this, or you were entertained at all, this is the perfect time to smash the like button, subscribe, only if you liked it and enjoyed the content. If not, I would appreciate it if you did it otherwise, but you don't have to. And I do want to remind you that nothing here is financial advice. It's obviously just an opinion. And yeah, I'm just some guy on YouTube. Don't get too upset. Just take it with a grain of salt. It's an opinion and move on. Hopefully you found it useful. And I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, guys, bye.